Welcome back to World of Immersion. Today we're going to be ranking every single ride at the one and only Universal Studios Hollywood. Now, Universal Studios Hollywood is my home park. I have been visiting this park my entire life. I've visited well over 100 times and I've been on every single ride there, dozens and dozens of times. So I feel like I have a pretty solid opinion on what the best rides are in that park. But before we start today's video, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss when we have brand new content. We have tons of content coming out. It also shows that over 97% of you guys who watch these videos are not subscribed. So please hit that subscribe button if you can. It helps out the channel a ton. With that being said, let's not waste any further time. Let's get right into the video. Alright, so starting off in last place, unfortunately, at number 11, we have the DreamWorks Theater featuring Kung Fu Panda. Now, Kung Fu Panda Adventure isn't necessarily a bad ride, it's just barely a ride in my opinion. It's more like a theater that kind of moves a little bit. The seats move just a little bit. They call it a 4D theater, and they do consider it a ride, but in my opinion, it's much more like a show. Like I said, it's not necessarily that bad, but it is just one giant screen, and like I said, the seats barely move at all. I'm sure kids will have a ton of fun on this ride, but personally for me, it's absolutely a ride I do not find myself going ever to check out. I feel like the last time I rode this ride was probably almost a year ago, and honestly, I don't have much of a desire to ride it again. Maybe at some point we'll do an all rides challenge, and maybe I'll check it out again then soon. But moving on to number 10, and at number 10 we have Despicable Me Minion Mayhem. Another simulator-based attraction, except this one definitely moves a lot more. The movement of these ride vehicles is decently thrilling, and this ride is great for kids. However, I am just not a huge fan of simulators. And honestly, in my opinion, this one isn't that great. There are a lot of other better simulators, even some better simulator rides in this own park. So I find myself also, once again, never really doing this ride. But like I said, it's great for kids. This ride seems to be very popular. Kids love this ride. On a crowded day, you will consistently see this line with well over an hour wait. So it's absolutely doing something right. But it's just not for me. Now, coming in at number 9 is absolutely a ride I find myself doing quite a bit, and that is Flight of the Hippogriff. Now, this is definitely a bit of a kiddie coaster. However, it has some decent theming. I actually really enjoy the queue, and I love that animatronic before the lift. It's decently thrilling, especially if you ride it at night. For some reason, this ride at night can be a lot of fun. During horror nights, I love checking this one out because it's always a complete walk-on, and like I said, at night it's a very cool ride. But it's still just a kiddie coaster. It can't really come in that much higher on the list. Coming in at number 8 is yet again another simulator ride, but this is the Simpsons ride. Now, honestly, I've never really been a huge fan of this ride, but it is definitely my favorite simulator-style ride in this park. It's definitely the most thrilling of all of it. I think it's the most immersive. The screens definitely blend very well with the movement of the ride vehicle. The pre-show is definitely funny. I do love The Simpsons. The Simpsons IP is very, very funny. It's great. However, I just think this ride is a little bit outdated, and I think it's probably time for something new in its place. Hopefully not another simulator ride, though. I do wish I got to experience the Back to the Future ride that was in this place before. However, the Simpsons ride isn't necessarily that bad, and it does have a huge cult following. People seem to love this ride, so once again, it seems to be doing something right. But coming in at number 7, this may be a bit of a shock to people because it is a fan favorite in the park, and that is going to be Revenge of the Mummy, the ride. Now, hear me out. This ride is definitely a lot of fun. It's definitely decently thrilling. It just is nothing compared to the Revenge of the Mummy over in Orlando. That Revenge of the Mummy is incredible. It's one of my favorite rides, if not my favorite ride in that entire park at Universal Studios Florida. But this one here is just not anywhere near as good. It's nearly half the length. The dark ride section is not that great. The backward section is just okay, and it has the most anticlimactic ending I think I've ever experienced on a ride. You're spinning on that turntable with all the fog and the sound building up, and you think something big is about to happen, and then the ride ends. I wish it had a much better ending. The launch, though, is really fun. It's definitely a decently smooth ride. You get a little bit of pops of airtime, especially if you're in the back corners of the ride vehicle. The queue inside is definitely decently themed, but just in my opinion, it's not that great of a ride, and once again, it's one of the rides that I don't find myself doing a ton when I go to the park. But moving on to number 6, and at number 6 we have Transformers The Ride 3D. Now, I used to be a huge hater of this ride, however, it definitely has grown on me recently. It's nowhere near as good as its counterpart, The Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man, which was built a few years earlier than it over at Islands of Adventure in Orlando. However, it's definitely still a lot of fun. I think the screen quality is definitely pretty decent. It actually just got a huge refurb, and I've yet to check it out since it reopened, but I'm sure that the screen quality is even better now. The movement can be decently thrilling. I just don't love how you're just kind of always watching these big robots battle. You're not really in the action too much, you're kind of just watching the action. That being said, it's not a bad ride at all. It has one of the best queues in the park. It's got great capacity. Just honestly, not really much I could say bad about this ride. It's not my favorite in the world, but it's definitely not a bad ride at all. It's a great solid ride to add to the collection at Universal Studios Hollywood. But moving on to our top 5, and at number 5 we have Secret Life of Pets Off the Leash. I am a huge fan of this ride. I absolutely love it. I think this is absolutely the direction that Universal should be going when they're adding new attractions. It is a huge Omnimover style ride, very similar to kind of more old school style dark rides with some huge physical sets and tons of animatronics. These sets look great. The animatronics are awesome. It tells the story very well. The queue is also one of the best queues in the park. It's great. You're going through that apartment complex in New York City. It is just a ton of fun. I am a huge fan of this ride. It absolutely is geared more towards children, but I feel like it can absolutely be enjoyed by anybody. Definitely a great dark ride and a must-do when visiting Universal Studios Hollywood. Do be warned though, this line seems to get really long because the capacity is not that great. But coming in at number 4 is a ride that's very difficult to rank for me, and that is the one and only Studio Tour. Now this could absolutely be your favorite ride in the entire park, and I can completely understand why. This is pretty much the reason why the majority of people come to Universal Studios Hollywood, or at least it has been for many, many years. It's the reason why Universal Studios Hollywood exists as a theme park. And for that reason, it absolutely should be number 1. However, I've just been on it so many times that it gets just a little bit repetitive. It's not super re-rideable. And the show scenes that it has are just okay. I think absolutely the coolest part is being able to be on the studio itself. That is very, very cool. And driving through all those sets where movies were actually filmed. Sometimes too, if you go during the week, you can even get a glimpse of them shooting movies, which is so cool. You can even spot some famous celebrities. And for that reason, this ride is absolutely a must-do. If you are visiting Universal Studios Hollywood for the first time ever, you have to do the studio tour. You cannot miss out on it. However, if you are a season pass holder, it might be something that you end up skipping quite often just because it takes nearly an hour long to ride, excluding the wait time. So it's one of those rides that unfortunately I don't find myself doing a ton. I wish I did it more, but I don't find myself doing it because it takes way too long. But that being said, it's absolutely a must-do if you're a first-time visitor, and I definitely recommend checking it out. But moving on to our top 3, and these 3 were very hard for me to rank because I love each and every one of them. But for me, coming in at number 3, we have the newest ride in the park, Mario Kart Bowser's Challenge. Now, originally, I was not a huge fan of this ride. However, the more I ride it, the more it grows on me. The physical sets are great. The queue is amazing. It's probably the best queue, or one of the best queues in all of Universal Studios Hollywood. The augmented reality, I think, works pretty decently well, and I love the shooting mechanic. It's a lot of fun being able to aim around with your head and shoot out the shells. It's very, very cool. The augmented reality definitely could use a little bit of work, but I think it works decently well. One of my favorite scenes of the ride, though, is towards the end with Rainbow Road. I think the blending between the augmented reality and the actual physical sets and screens works really, really well there. That's definitely the best version of it. But besides that, the physical sets in the rest of the rooms are very, very cool. They are these huge physical sets. I think a lot of the main complaints for this ride is that it's not fast, but I don't think it's meant to be. It's a family-oriented attraction, so they couldn't make it too fast. And for that, I completely understand why they made it exactly how they did, but I also can understand the critique that people wanted a faster ride. I understand both sides of the argument there, but for me, I love Mario Kart. I think it's a must-do if you're visiting Universal Studios Hollywood. But coming in at number 2 is one of my all-time favorite dark rides in the world, and that is Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey. This ride is fantastic. If you have not already, be sure to check out our top 25 dark rides list. We just posted that a few days ago, and you will see just where this ride and Mario Kart rank on that list, because they're both fantastic dark rides. But for me, Forbidden Journey is a little bit better. I think it's one of the most immersive dark rides I have ever been through. The queue is absolutely the best in all of Universal Studios Hollywood. The physical sets and those animatronics in this ride are great. The only part of the ride that I don't really love are those motion simulator sections. If anything, it would be better without them. I think they could do more physical sets, but I understand why they're there. It's able to save a lot more space that way. But just overall, this ride is absolutely incredible. You have to check this one out if you're visiting Universal Studios Hollywood. The entirety of the Wizarding World is amazing too. By far the best land in all of Universal Studios Hollywood, in my opinion. But it doesn't come in at number 1 because that honor goes to one of my all-time favorite rides, Jurassic World The Ride. Now, originally, if this was just Jurassic Park, it probably would be a little bit lower on the list, but since the refurb to Jurassic World, I like it even better. At first, I was a little skeptical. There was that 1 year period when it first opened where the finale was just okay, but then they refurbished it again, they completely changed the finale, and now it has by far one of the best finales to any ride in the world. I don't want to spoil it too much, but you have some incredible animatronics, probably some of the best I've ever seen on a ride, and they are so close to you, they are massive. This ride is just insane. I love this ride so much. The only part of this ride that I really wish it didn't have was that first scene with the Mosasaurus. I think it relies way too heavily on screens. But besides that, the rest of the ride is all physical sets, and I think it's done fantastically. This is one of the best rides in all of California, in my opinion, and absolutely my favorite ride at all of Universal Studios Hollywood. But that's going to do it for our ranking today of every single ride at Universal Studios Hollywood. Be sure to comment down below what your ranking is of all the rides here at this park. I'm sure my list will differ from everybody else's, so I'm curious to see how you guys rank them. But that's going to do it for our video today. Thank you so much for watching World of Immersion, and we'll catch you in the next video.